commence to chapter 40. Again, I don't think we're going to finish this chapter tonight. It's run through, make it simple. Simply speaking.
Every chapter.
No, it's a long
No,
chapter,
it's
and
fine.
I will not do justice to it if I kind of just ram
Thank
right
you.
through it.
No rush.
Mm.
Fine.
I'm going to fall asleep. I'm like,
I drink some
you
just want to get
know,
down.
you sound like a little barber or am I something other? Time. Yeah, Brett, positively, absolutely, positively. Time rough.
What time's your flight?
11.
Tonight. Oh, have another.
Generally, you should try to get on the plane sober.
No,
More sober than not.
you're not flying it, are you?
I hope not. Not as a pilot. I paid someone else to do that.
Okay, well, that's it. It's delegation.
Correct. Yes.
Did you fly out of
Tonight, I'm flying out of Ontario. They just started it about a month ago. They restarted the JetBlue flight on a red eye.
That's your preference?
Well, yeah. I mean, in theory, be my preference. The question is if the time works. So tonight it worked. I went to New York 2 weeks ago. That flight wasn't late enough Saturday night. That flight left at 11. I couldn't get there with enough time for time shuttles. So I went to LAX. The flight leaves at 12 or 11:59 p.m. It just depends. Burbank has a red eye, but that leaves like at 9:20, 9:30. Then I wouldn't do the class. So like, you know, that was basically the gist of it. Well, in general, I am disliking the red eye more and more so as I age gracefully, but some reason it hasn't stopped me from taking it
It's not called red eye for
nothing. Yeah, no, I'm
Exactly.
kidding. Exactly. All right. Anyway, chapter 40, page 470. Power of Kavanah 3. Section 1. How can you create angels? So the chapter continues and concludes our discussion from earlier chapters about the importance of Kavanah, of attentiveness or fervor and the like during worship. At the end of the last chapter, we learned that when Torah study is carried out without Kavanah, it won't ascend to the spiritual worlds. And from there to this blessed infinite one until you study the text again with Kavanah. So if you study, this is not talking about if you study Torah with an ulterior motive. You just study Torah, whatever, without Kavanah. The next time you study that piece of Torah again, it will elevate not just what you've studied now with the right intent, but also what you did in the past without the intent. But so long as you haven't gone back and studied this Torah text with an authentic intent, your study won't rise up even to the 10 spheres that illuminate the worlds of Yetzirah or Asiya. As we learned in chapter 39, each spiritual world consists of spheros, right? The 10 spheros, God's light diminished to be compatible with that world in particular, and an infrastructure of non-divine chambers. When you study Torah with authentic intent, it rises to the spheres of one of the higher worlds, which contains a glimmer of the blessed infinite light. It's not even the full-fledged, it's a glimmer of it. On page 471. Because the spheres are divine, and the blessed infinite light is literally merged and enmeshed within them. So if your intent is not for the sake of the divine, your Torah can't merge with the divine energy of the spheres, even in the lowest world. As we learned previously, the requirement for this, quote, authentic divine intent is stated in the Koni Zohar, the words of the Zohar. As is the Tikkun Zohar states, without reverence and love for God, your Torah can't rise up and stand before God. So you need both love and fear, or reverence and love of Hashem, to ensure that your mitzvah, so to speak, will fly heavenward. So when you study Torah, but when your Torah study can't rise up and stand before God, where exactly does the energy go? It's like, okay, I studied Torah. Let's say I didn't have the right intent. So then what happens? Does it just float around aimlessly? So we're not talking about the case mentioned in the previous chapter where the Torah becomes bound by klipa due to selfish intentions. We're talking about when the intention was not for God, but not for yourself either, not for any self-aggrandizement. It's all this modern. Rather than your study will ascend, not world, which are more external, the superficial dimension of the worlds. So the superficial dimension of a world is its infrastructure. It's not the divine light that goes inside them. It's the infrastructure, is those elements which are there to support the main content of the world, which is the divine light. And it's there in the superficial dimension of the worlds that the angels are stationed. So even though the angels are holy, and you would assume that they're going to be at the highest of levels, right? Because they're not physical beings, they're spiritual beings. But since they are not the purpose of the world, which contains them, they're considered superficial, meaning that any angel, or all the angels essentially that are created, are not the purpose of creation in any way, shape, or form. They're there to serve us, to serve Hashem, whatever it may be, or serve Hashem's will. But ultimately, the purpose of creation is for us, we human beings down here.
They're just intermediaries.
They're intermediaries. Each one has its own job. So you have, for example, the angel of Michael, right? Is the angel of kindness. Gabriel is that of strength, severity. There's the angel of death. There's the angel of Matatron. There's different angels that we know. I mean, there are myriads and myriads of angels, but the ones whose names that we know about have generally speaking, a very unidimensional purpose to their creation. So, for example, the angel Michael, which is the angel of kindness, can't be unkind. It's not like he really has choices. Being kind, or the angel of judgment, it's a very unidimensional purpose, and that's what they can do. Even like, for example, the angel of death. It's not the angel of death says, "Oh, I relish taking people's lives." It doesn't have a choice. That's what it's created to do. Period. It's not that it could say, "Well, it's not nice. What am I doing to this family?" It's not a matter of having feelings or not. This is what it's ordered to do, and that's ultimately what it has to do. It's like almost akin to the evil inclination that we have. It's not that our evil inclination really wants us to foul up, even though you would think so. It would actually prefer that you don't foul up. But its job is to do its utmost. It can't say, "Well, I feel bad making you do this. I mean, I know you shouldn't be doing this, and I shouldn't be encouraging you, but I'm going to encourage you anyway." That's what it's created to do.
During Pesach, when he passed over the angel of death, then skipped, but then
that was by Hashem allowing it to pass over the homes that had the blood on the lintel, right? But that was ordained by God. It wasn't.
So he followed.
Well, he always follows God's intentions. So it's said, for example, of certain people, David HaMelech, King David, whose yahrzeit was just now, right? So he was a very holy person. Some other tzaddikim, where it says the angel of death couldn't take them because it was so divinely enmeshed in their life at that point that even the angel of death couldn't get a word in edgewise. So with one of them, it says that it distracted. Might have been David HaMelech, actually, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I have to look. Where the leaves rustled outside and distracted his focus for a brief second, and that's when the angel of death took him, where he wasn't 100% focused on Torah and the light. You had a question or
No,
beginnings of one?
no,
Okay, sorry.
What about with Moshe?
So Moshe Rabbeinu did not. It says that he died. We don't even know where he's buried. Okay, so it says he's buried in Mount Nebo, Har Nevo. Where it is exactly on the mountain, we don't know, because as the Torah says, those who are at the bottom look like he was buried at the top. Those who are at the top, it looks like he's buried at the bottom. We're not meant to know exactly where his deathbed is, his burial place is. But it also says that he went up like on a bed, so to speak, quote unquote, straight to heaven. A natural death, although he physically passed. Well, it was not a natural way for a person to die. So he had certain people that died. Elijah lived as a human being. And then when his time came, whatever it was, he ascended on high, and then God made him into an angel, as we know him today. But he initially was a person. So, and that's a kid. I'm sorry?
He has no name of parent.
Elijah? I don't know that we know who his parents are. But it says he was a living human being. You know, someone else also it says she never died. Sarah was the daughter of Asher. He was one of the tribes. It says she never died. Like a natural death. So what does that mean exactly? She's not here physically, but she was around, though we know, for like centuries over the stories that happened in Chumash. She was still around. So like, she went up. It says she went up to heaven alive, whatever that means. I mean, it's not something you can replicate and truly understand, but it says she went up to heaven alive. It wasn't a natural death where she was buried, or back in the day they embalmed and what have you. Regarding Jacob, our forefather, it says Yaakov Avinu Lames. It says Jacob, our forefather, never died. So the Talmud asks the question, what do you mean never died? It says that they eulogized him, they embalmed him, etc. What do you mean never died? So the Talmud answers in regards to Jacob. In particular, it says Mazar B'chaim Mafu B'chaim. Just like his progeny, his teachings through his progeny are still alive, so too is he like still alive. Although he's not physically here, he's buried in but his life, in a sense, continues through his children, his progeny, and the like. But that notion initially comes from the idea of Jacob. Okay. So without reverence and love, basically we will see, as we'll see shortly, they're considered to be the wings of your mitzvah. So if you were to envision yourself doing the mitzvah, you're the bird. But a bird without wings can't fly. It can live, but it can't fly. So the love and reverence, or love and fear of Hashem, acts as those wings to allow the mitzvah to ascend on high. Rather, with neutral intent, your study will ascend not to the divine sephiros, but to the chambers and repositories in those worlds, which are the superficial dimension of the world. The superficial dimension of a world is its infrastructure, those elements which are there to support the main content of the world, which is divine light. And it's there in the superficial dimension of the worlds that the angels are stationed. Now, they're not stationed in the inner circle, if you will, in the inner elements of godliness, but more in the external, or as he puts it here, as the superficial dimensions. Even though the angels are holy, since they are not the purpose of the world which contains them, they are considered superficial. The Tanya now cites the source for this idea. The Torah, devoid of Kavanah, rises to the superficial dimension of the worlds where the angels are stationed. Perek Beis, as stated by Rabbi Chaim Vital, Blessed Memory, Chapter 2 of Shari Chudim, in the section entitled Shar Nevuah. From Torah that is studied without authentic intent, angels are created in the world of Yitzira, page 472. And from practical mitzvahs observed without authentic intent, angels are created in the lower world of Asiyah. The mitzvahs involving action, when devoid of kavanah, have little light and energy of their own, so they cannot rise to Yitzira. As we noted above, the angels inhabit the superficial dimension of each world. So Chaim Vital's statement that Torah study without authentic intent creates angels indicates that the Torah rises to the superficial dimension of the world, but not to the spheros, not to the inner elements. But we see that Torah study, or a mitzvah which is void of kavanah, does at least enjoy some level of spiritual, even properly. You don't have the right intention or what have you. Still, to some extent, love of the angels. Worship devoid of kavanah can't rise up and stand before God. Doesn't mean that the worship can't rise at all. Just can't rise to the spheros and thereby to the blessed and infinite ways of mitzvah, or yitzir in the case of Torah study, which is the higher level. Now he says that all the angels consist of both matter and form. What does that mean? And because he says they're incompatible with the spheres which are divine. Something which is absolutely divine can't have either matter or form. Yes.
Previously, you'd said that prayer without kavanah kind of stalls on its path and encounters the angels. But here it says it creates angels.
So he's going to explain what that means. Okay. He says angels, of course, entirely spiritual, and they don't possess physical bodies, but they are a complex amalgam of different energies, not all of which are equally devoted to God. That's why the angels constantly sing and bow to God in an effort to subdue that part of them, which is less inclined to worship. It's a little hard to understand exactly what that means, because in reality, an angel doesn't have freedom of choice like a human being, but it has some form of choice, so again, the way Hashem created it to be, that form of the struggle where it needs to subdue, as he puts it over here, that element of that's not sort of, inclined, quote unquote, to serve Hashem. So the less inclined component is what the mystic refers to as the angel's matter. The Tanya refers here to this concept of angelic matter and form to add clarity to the idea of a neutral intent. Lacking kavanah doesn't mean that your act was totally mindless. It means, for example, that when you studied Torah or prayed and understood the meaning of the words that you were saying, but your intention wasn't to connect to God, so that's why even the angel created by such worship has matter and form. You created something. When you daven, every word of your prayer creates an angel. Both. So there may be. But then there's angels, quote unquote, that we're able to create ourselves by performing mitzvot and the like. That, you know, that you, so like creating another angelic, it doesn't mean an angel necessarily with wings, you know, however you, with a halo, but again, it's a form of an angel that we have the ability to do. So that's what he's saying when it comes to the idea of form and matter. So even an angel created by such worship has matter and form, matter corresponding to the physical enunciation of the words, and form corresponding to the basic understanding of what you're doing. So the answer is yes, we do create those angels in this context. By our prayer, we're creating new angels.
And it has to be exclusively through Torah study?
This is specifically through davening, that what we're talking about right now. Okay. Actually, no, it's both. That's not true. It's both davening and Torah study or Torah study. Up to this point, I'm sorry, we've been discussing what happens to Torah study devoid of kavanah. Now we turn to the spiritual address of Torah studied with a negative intention. In other words, it wasn't neutral, it was negative. When the study was motivated by selfish reasons, what would be an example of Torah, which is studied with a completely inauthentic intent, page 473, such as to be celebrated as a Torah scholar. Simply does not ascend heavenward at all. Even to the chambers and repositories of the sacred angels, rather the Torah remains below, at least temporarily, in this physical world, which is the repository of klippas. So that's a pretty strong statement. So the Tikkun Zohar statement that Torah study without kavanah can't rise up and stand before God can mean two different things in different circumstances. If there's a neutral kavanah, then the Torah will rise. It just won't rise before God. It gets stuck in the superficial dimension, the repositories, okay, of the spiritual worlds. But if there is a selfish intent, then the Torah won't rise at all and will become stuck in this world of klipa. And the Tanya is now going to bring a number of sources, two sources to support this idea that Torah performed with selfish intent doesn't rise from this world. What that means is simple English to the person. Their whole focus in life, right? Spend your life studying Torah. But if the point behind studying Torah is just to make me, then I am going to become a big scholar, big Talmid Chacham. I'm not serving the community. I'm not serving God per se. It's for my own ego to feed me, who wants to become the big. It may be a huge amount of Torah learning, but it's going to get stuck in klipas because there's an I, there's the id, there's the ego. And there goes the battery.